He says our defense can be top 20 if our pass rush is excellent. Pay got to step up.
No, I like
I
that's a good
mean,
question to get into some defensive talk here.
yeah, but we'll probably get into that, huh?
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, that's it's a good transition to get into some of the because we were going to talk about the run defense being an issue, but
oh
before
yeah,
we
you're
do
right. You're
that
right.
from the joint practices, like before we do that, Ryan, like, what do you think about their pass rush? Because like to me, like I left and on my show when Ryan Hogan and I were breaking it down, like it's like kind of felt like a wash rinse repeat of when Max isn't out there, there's no pass rush. Like, and again, take the caveat of it's vanilla preseason. They sat in
Yeah.
nickel the whole time. They're not blitzing. They're not doing any of the exotics. But still, you got to win your one-on-one battles at some point and get some pressure going. And that, to me, is what I walked away with more than worrying about the DBs. Because, yes, they got to cover too. But, like, at the end of the day, you got to get home and help these guys out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the Raiders can't get consistent pass rush outside of Max Crosby, then it's gonna be tough
Yeah.
because, like you said, you're relying on some young DBs, and the strength of your defense right now is going to have to be the guys up front. Um, that's why you bring in Quay Walker, who can use his versatility, whether he's lines up as an off-ball linebacker or you put him in the edge. We've seen him, quite a bit during practice where he's lined up in the edge trying to add some additional pass rush juice. But it can't just be Max. And the reason why it can't just be Max, because I remember General Manager John Spytek, he briefly talked about it at the league meetings, but like he didn't go into too much detail. But he said he's had conversations with Max about potentially limiting his snap count to preserve the longevity of his career. So if that's the case, you're going to need Queddy Pay. You're going to need Malcolm Kuntz. You're going to need those guys, Kieran Crawford, the rookie.
Kieran's got to step
You're
up,
going you're going to need those rotation of guys to step up to add more consistency there. You can't just keep relying on Max Crosby just to not come off the field. There's going to have to be more support. There's going to have to be some more support on that end. And, like you said, Jesse, I'm concerned about it as well because I go back to the Cleveland Browns game last year. Shador Sanders is a guy who he's known for taking sacks. You pressure him and he gets disrupted, and they couldn't even do that, right? And
they opened the door for ESPN. No offense, Ryan, but they opened the door for ESPN to go nuts about Shador, man. It was like the thing you couldn't do.
Yeah, and so man, it's like I'm so concerned about that as well because, like I said, you don't want to put all as good of a player Max Crosby is, and he does not like coming off the field, and we've all seen it in practice. This guy has not like he missed a step, right? But if he's one of the pillars of one of the pillars of the you hope to help you move forward in your rebuild, you want him to be healthy as possible and get some additional support. So I am as like. I know it's a preseason game. It's just one, right? I'm not trying to get too concerned about the defense after one preseason game. And I don't know if I told you about this at practice or someone else. I go back to like the year Mike McDonald, excuse me.
Dude, it's so hard to keep all the names straight. They're all the same.
Exactly. But I go back to like I covered the Ravens his first year as a DC. I remember that defense did not look good in the beginning, and then they suddenly clicked. And after that, he praises this brilliant defensive mind who gets a head coaching job with the Seahawks and engineers the defense so good to win the Super Bowl. So you kind of want to have that patience, but when we go back to that game from a pass rush standpoint, from a run day and inability to get some pressure from your defensive line in terms of stopping the run, right? It looks like signs of what we saw last year, and that was one of the issues they had as a defensive unit, which put even more pressure on then secondary.
Yeah, you can't be stressing your second and third level without by not having the pass rush. That's for sure.
Definitely watching that last game too. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because watching it, of course, it's so easy to get on the young secondary, right? Because I had expectations to see him really ball out,
and we've been talking them up. Like, to be honest, like we've been talking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to see how they pan out. Zeke, I want to see Jamal, like, and just to see him get blown coverage or just not turning their heads around on certain plays. Like, it's really frustrating that you kind of overlook a lot of other things, which I've seen a lot of people talking about that too. And I didn't talk about it in my instant reaction because I didn't really think about the defensive line putting pressure until later on. And I'm like, because we didn't have no pressure. And, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, they were sitting in the pocket clean. Like, Gardner could do whatever he wanted. He didn't look like a little ass boy out there. He looked like a big ass boy out there, like the way he was playing against our defense. So like, we're definitely gonna have to find that out in a lot of these other guys. And Kwity Paye, I think, is a name that people are bringing up, especially in the chat, because we paid him to come over here to help out. You know, at least bring some pass rush ability alongside of the young rookies that we do have. But you know, this can't be the Max got to do it all show, because you know, if it is and the wins don't start stacking up, then it's gonna be like, okay, it's gonna be another tough season. But definitely we got to find that pressure from somewhere else. And I'm hoping that it's just preseason and that they're not, you know, throwing everything at the wall right now. And of course, there's gonna be a lot of questions with Rob Leonard if this was to happen during the season, because this is his first time being a defensive coordinator as well. So, like I said, I'm just hoping that it's just preseason. But that's why I think this next game is gonna be pretty big, because maybe they're gonna want to make CJ Stroud a little uncomfortable, and then whoever else they have out there.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if you can get 2023, 2024 Kwity Paye out of this, when he had 16 and a half sacks combined over those 2 years, like, total game changer for this team. But Ryan, what were you gonna say? I want to let you get in there.
I think, like I said, I also like to go back to this whole idea of like, kind of, let's be a little bit cautious. Like, not be cautious. I mean, like, you know, be patient just a little bit and give this some time, especially when you're dealing with a first-time defensive coordinator. Because I look at the numbers, right? They only had a blitz rate. They only blitzed 8 times, right?
Yeah.
And even in coverage, they were in zone coverage on 24 plays compared to 8 in man, according to Next Gen Stats, right? So like, I look at stuff like that where, because when I bring those numbers up, I expect them to blitz a little bit more during the regular season. It's just I feel like Rob Leonard just has a really aggressive mindset. A lot of players talk about them being really aggressive. So I think you're going to see them blitz a lot more than what we saw last in the preseason opener. On top of that, I think you're going to see them play a lot more man moving forward than zone coverage. So that's why I said, like, it goes to, like you said, Jesse, very vanilla stuff. They're not trying to reveal too much, but at the same time, you know, you still want to have that. You still want to have somebody to provide some support from a pass rush standpoint, even in the interior, whether it's like, you know, Jonah or Tonka. You know, Tonka's a guy who you hope kind of has that juice as in the interior, just for what we've seen at practice. Because I always go back. We're going to go back to what I said. And I know it's like very repetitive, but you don't want Max Crosby continuing to do this alone. You kind of want to preserve this guy. You know, you brought him back after the whole trade fallout, and after that moment, and you say, hey, you know, after that pass, we still believe Crosby's one of the faces of the franchise, someone that can finally help us at some point get over this hump, right? And you know, in order for him to do that, guess what? He has to be healthy. You don't want to be in a situation where he's playing through a serious knee injury for 7 games, or how many games it was last year before they shut him down. You don't want that, because you want him to be around for the long term. And so you need Kwity, you need Malcolm, you need Kieran, Tonka, you need all those guys. I just want to see I do like to see a little bit more consistency from that standpoint. Will we see that in the preseason? I don't know. It depends on what they want to show. But, you know, when the regular season come around, that's something I really want to look at, because they're going to need it. You know, there's a lot of questions with the secondary because they're very young. So as much as much help the guys up front can give, you know, to defense is very needed.
Yeah, I would say, like, for me too, like, kind of echoing what you're saying, Ryan, like, patience, which I know I know that sounds tone deaf saying to Raider Nation. I know you guys have had to be patient for so long, man. So, but like,
too long.
I would say, but I would say, like, patience in the sense of, like, wait to really like withhold judgment on the pass rush and a lot of things with this team, probably till you're about like a month in, 4 weeks into the season, when they've had a chance to really run their stuff. Because again, like, what have we been talking about so much with the Raiders defense? Multiplicity, you know, and to your point too, Ryan, I think also they're going to be more aggressive, and they're not going to show a lot of looks. They're not going to blitz in the preseason, especially when that's something that a team that's trying to rebuild but wants to still win at the same time, they're not just going to unload it and show the world what they're going to be running for the year, you know, because the way teams can get a jump on other teams when they have a new coaching staff is that the book's not out there on them for the first couple weeks of the season. You don't see their punch and counter punches to things. So, like, that's where I think, like, try to withhold judgment or get too high or too low on anything until you're about a month into the season, when everybody's got a book on you. They see what you're running, and you can actually kind of throw that full arsenal out there. I think that's the smartest way to approach it. And on paper, to the question there of it, on paper, they've made the right moves to try and add depth to be able to rush in waves. I mean,